All right, hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to be doing division, long division, two ways, one using multiplication and then regular long division. So as you can see, I've already created the board. I'm going to explain it, and then the last problem I'm actually going to do with you. So first we have, the problem is 126 divided by 14, and that will equal 9, as I will show you. So one of the strategies you can do is figure out what they're really asking is how many groups of 14 do you have if you have 126? So think, I don't know, Sour Patch Kids, Swedish Fish, something. If you have 126 and you're trying to split them up equally among 14 people, how many will each person get? That's really kind of essentially what you're asking with division. So one way to do it is repeated multiplication. So as you can see here on the screen, you have 2 times 14 is 28. Therefore, if you just double that, 4 times 14 is 56. Double that, 8 times 14 is 112. And then you're getting really close to that 126 number. So we can just add one more group of 14. So 112 plus 14 is 126. That's one way to do it. When I'm using multiplication, a way that I like to do it is the second way that I showed you here, and that is using a landmark number like 10, for instance, since our number system is based on a base 10 system. So you could do 10 times 14, and that's 140, but that's too many. So then we say, all right, well, let's take away a group of 14 from that 10. So 140 minus 14 is 126. So therefore, 9 times 14 is 126. Let me go to the next board here. Here's another way to think about it. And I apologize, it looks like my little video down here is cutting off a little bit of my board. I didn't realize it would do that. But I have drawn 10 groups of 14. Okay, so remember, it's 126 that we're trying to get to. That's a magic number. So I figured I would make 10 groups of 14 and see where I end up with that. So I have 14, 14, 14, 14, 14. And 140 is too much because 10 times 140, as I just showed you, is too much. So I took away a group of 14, which is shown here. 140 minus 14 is 126. So therefore, this got cut off, but 9 groups of 14, it would say right here. Okay? So that is using multiplication. That is probably not the way that your parents learned, but that's the way that Investigations introduces this. So my recommendation to you is, I have showed you already 2 different ways. So just using multiplication, either or, one of these ways. I have shown how to draw a picture to try to solve it, which if you look, this right here is actually what I showed you here, okay? The third way is long division like I learned when I was your age and probably what your parents learned. Now, I will tell you, this is really important. You are not going to, they don't even introduce this way in 4th grade. But because 4th grade is almost over and you're going to 5th grade, I figured I would show you this way. I don't expect you to master this. It's okay if you don't, because you're going to spend a lot of time on it in 5th grade. Okay? So I just want to make that clear. I do want you to try it, but I'm not expecting you to totally master this, especially with me just giving you one problem. You're going to spend a lot more time in 5th grade doing this. All right? So there are a couple different steps. I came up with this like really corny saying that if we were in school, I'd probably introduce to you. And it stands for the first couple letters here. So if you see, it's an O, D, M, S, C, down arrow, up arrow. Okay. And the corny saying that I would say is O, dear Mr. Santa Claus, down the chimney, back up the chimney. So O stands for O, D stands for dear, M stands for Mr., S stands for Santa, C stands for Claus. The down arrow means he has to come down the chimney to deliver the presents, and the up arrow means he needs to go back up the chimney to get back to the reindeer and go to the next house. Yes, it's corny, but it actually works. But each of these, and that's just a way to remember the steps. Here are the steps. So that corny saying is just to remember basically the first couple letters here and symbols so you know which steps. And this is what they actually mean. The O actually stands for circle, and I'm going to show you each of these steps in a second. The D stands for divide, M stands for multiply, S stands for subtract, C stands for compare. The down arrow means bring down, and the up arrow means bring up. Okay? So here are each of the steps. I'm actually going to be writing on the board, so bear with me here. So I wanted to show you step by step. Make my pen. Actually, I'm going to keep it at 2. Come on. There. Okay. So the first step, circle. You ask yourself, does 14 go into 1? In other words, if you have 1 of something, I know you're probably thinking that's 100, isn't it? Right now, we're just taking each place value, okay? So we're just looking at the 1 right now. And I want you to ask yourself, here I have 1 pen as a stylus on the end. That's actually what I'm using to write on the board. But here's 1 pen. How many groups of 14 can I make if I have 1 pen? If I only have 1 pen, I can't make any groups of 14. So if you would want, you could actually put a 0 there because I can make 0 groups of 14 if I only have 1 pen. Now, if I have 12 pens, I don't, I only have 1, but pretend, if I had 12 pens, can I make any groups of 14? And the answer is no. So that's another 0. Now, how about if I had 126? This is like Swedish Fish or Sour Patch Kids, how I said earlier. If I have 126, I'm not sure why I'm showing you the pen, I'm done with the pen. If I had 126 Sour Patch Kids, how many groups of 14 can I make? That's what you're trying to figure out. So in this case, that's what the circle step stands for. You're showing that you can't make any groups when you only have 1. Can't make any groups if you only have 12. But you can make some groups if you have 126. Now, when you're doing this, because I know you're not all fluent with your basic facts yet, especially 14 times something, you're only expected to know automatically through 12. That's where this comes into play, the 2 other things that I showed you. So you could ask yourself, can I make 10 groups of 14 if I have 126? Well, no, I can't because I would need 140. So then I'm going to back up. I'm going to try 9. So we're going to see if 9 works. So I'm going to, so that's the divide step. Basically, I'm dividing and saying, all right, I'm going to try 9. The next step would be to multiply. So hopefully you understand the circle step, how I circled 126. The divide step was deciding what number you're going to divide into it. We decided 10's too much, so we're going to back up and try 9. So now we're going to multiply. So once again, going back to this, we're going right back to what we were doing before. When you divide, you're actually multiplying to figure it out. So we have 14 times 9. And you should remember how to do this. This is a standard algorithm. You have 9 times 4 is 36. So we put the 6 down. We regroup the 3. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 3 is 12. So right there's my 126. The next step is subtract. And we're going to subtract 126. Obviously, 126 minus 126 is 0. Now, this is an important step. This next step would make a lot more sense if we do a division with a remainder, which we are not going to do this year. Again, you'll do that next year in 5th grade because your answers won't always work out. In other words, we know this is going to be 9. Oops. But it won't always work out evenly like that. Sometimes this number, when you subtract, let's just, for instance, it's not, but let's say the answer is 124. If you subtract 126 minus 124, you're going to get a 2 down here. Okay, that would be called a remainder, which I'm going to explain in a second. But we don't have that in this case. I'm giving you problems that actually work out evenly without a remainder. So the next step would be the compare. Because it's a 0, this is going to sound a little weird, but again, if you pretended that you got a 2 or something, you would ask yourself, is this number that I got when I subtracted less than this number, the number we started with? That's what you're asking yourself. By the way, the technical terms for these are, this number is called the divisor, this number is called the dividend, and the answer that you get is called the quotient. Okay? You may hear, if you see videos or anything, you may hear those terms being thrown around. So back to this, we're comparing, is 0 less than 14? Well, of course it is. Bring down. There is no other numbers to bring down. If we were using a larger number like 1,264, we would actually bring down that 4 and put it right here, and then basically start all over. But again, we're not doing that. And then the bring up step would be if there would be a remainder. So let's say we ended up with a 2 down here. You would actually bring that number up and you would put remainder 2. Now, it is not remainder 2, of course, because this problem that I gave you worked out, and I'm not giving you problems with remainder, so I'm going to get rid of that. But that's what the remainder is and would be called. So as you can see, these numbers, again, 14 times 9 is your 126. And that is long division. Again, I would most expect you to fully understand these two methods because this is the way that Investigations introduces it, this way or this way. So what I'm going to ask you to do when I give you another problem is to solve it, but I want you to solve it using 2 out of these 3 methods, okay? If you want to try long division, go for it. Remember, you can always come back and watch this video again. I'll probably post another video too of some other ways, but I think I explained it pretty well here. I would like you to try it one of these ways, so using multiplication. So again, I'm going to give you a division problem, but I want you to multiply to figure out the answer. You can do that by trying to use a landmark number like 10 and possibly subtracting back from that. Or you can start real basic and try 2 and then maybe double it to 4 and then double it to 8 as far as you can but you don't want to go past that 126. So it's one of these ways. So that's one way. The second way is drawing a picture. So no matter what the problem is, you can basically just draw circles. And I've also seen people put dots, but it would be a lot to put 14 dots in each one of these circles. You can do that though, if you want. But so instead of putting a number 14 in here, I've seen people actually literally put like 1, 2, 3, 4, 14 dots in each of these. But that obviously would take a long time with a problem like this. So you could just put the numbers in the circles, however many circles you think it will take to get to whatever number that you're trying to get to. In this case, I tried 10, but that was too much. So I took, as you can see here, I took one of the groups away. So 140 is too much. 140 minus 14, which is that last group here. Therefore, the 9 groups here is going to equal my 126. So that's the second way. That's the draw a picture way. So first step, multiply to solve. Second step, draw a picture. Or again, the third step, if you want to try, is long division. This may be more beneficial if you have your parents handy and they would be able to show you how to do this again, because again, I do not expect you to fully understand this year. I usually taught it very, very briefly at the end of the year, kind of like I'm doing right now. Obviously, when I was in the classroom, I would teach it, but this method is not even in Investigations yet. You get this method in 5th grade. I just think it makes sense to at least expose you to it. So 2 out of the 3 ways. This first way is shown in investigations. This second way is shown in investigations. This third way is the way that your parents and I learned and is not shown in investigations until 5th grade. But you're almost there, so maybe some of you want to try it. All right. I hope that helps. All right, I'm going to end the video now, and I'm going to post a problem for each of you to do. And remember, I'm only asking you to do it 2 out of those 3 ways. If you want to do all 3, by all means,